Bringing the optimal hero equipment and pet combination is crucial to getting 3 stars in Clash of Clans, and today we're going to go over the combinations for the top 14 most popular strategies in the game. Before we start, it's worth noting, whilst this is aimed at Town Hall 16, when it comes to hero equipment, it can apply to all the Town Hall levels below it. But if either you're a lower Town Hall or a higher Town Hall and you don't feel like your question is answered in this video, ask me down in the comments below. I'm going to get to every single comment on this. In fact, I challenge you all to ask so many questions that I can't possibly respond to them all. Good luck. I'll see you in the comments. The first army of 14 we're going to be reviewing today is Queen Charge Root Riders. Now, to explain this graphic, you have the hero here, then below it you have the pet that I'd recommend bringing on said hero or assigning to said hero. Then you have equipment number 1 and equipment number 2, and these are ranked in order of priority. For instance, the Gauntlet's more important than the Rage Vial, although they're both really strong. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is the jelly on the king. This may surprise you all, and it depends on how you use the king. So for instance, when I'm doing Queen Charge Root Rider, I send my king inside the base with the Root Riders to do that extra bit of DPS, and also because the Gauntlet is insane in the core of bases. But if you've got the Phoenix on him, he'll spend a lot of time clearing out trash. So if you bring the jelly that you see here, King's going to go into the core and not going to spend as much time beating trash buildings. However, if you use the king to funnel, either with the siege barracks or by himself on the flank, or you Sui him into a compartment, the Phoenix is definitely better. Now we're going to talk about the frozen arrow here quickly. If you're new to Queen Charging, maybe start with the Archer Puppet, because you get the health on recovery, which is huge. Essentially means your Queen's far less likely to die through ability. But once you get any sort of skill with Queen Charging and being able to multitask, you're not going to let your Queen die through ability that often, and the Frozen Arrow is 100% better with that damage reduction. We're also going to talk about this pet combination. By the way, we will spend a bit longer on this first one just to explain all the basic stuff. We're going to fly through the last 13 attack strategies, don't you worry. Now, when it comes to the RC, always use the Haste Vial. The Haste Vial is so clearly the strongest equipment in the game. Couldn't recommend it enough. It's all about this second equipment. And the way I think of it is, if your RC is expected to live for more than a minute, bring the Royal Gem. You get that extra DPS, and she's going to make up that damage within the minute easily. However, if you're putting her on, say, by yourself on the outside of the base, like the Royal Champion's often used for, then the Hog Puppet is better, because you get that invisibility for a second and the Hogs to tank that makes her live so much longer than the Royal Gem can do. So that's kind of the thinking behind the Royal Champion equipment. In terms of everything else, pretty standard. You're always going to see the Fox on the RC. The Diggy is so good with Root Riders, stunning defenses. You're going to see him used a lot with the Warden today. And obviously, the Healing Tome is OP. Now let's jump to the second attack strategy. It's Queen Charge Lalo. The first thing that stands out to you is we've got now the Phoenix on the king, because the king's not going in with the main group as we talked about. He's just been used to either create a funnel for the Queen Charge or to help out the Lalo, so you definitely want the Phoenix there. We're still using the Diggy, even though it's a Lalo attack. The ability for the Diggy to stun defenses is amazing. You can save freezes, and whilst he will, I don't actually know what gender the Diggy is, but whilst the Diggy will pull skeleton traps, it's really not the end of the world. Some of the time you'll be Laloing with your RC anyway, and it's worth pulling a couple of skellies if you get that freeze effect or the stun effect. And you can see we are bringing in the Hog Puppet here, because the Royal Champion is going to either be used by herself or with the Lalo, and the Lalo's not really tanking for her that well, so you want that 1 second invis. And we are going to bring the Life Gem. I always bring the Life Gem with Lalo. We'll talk about stars later, because he does bring the Healing Tome, but for me the Life Gem is just better. Next up, we have Queen Charge Twin Hogs. Not a very used attack strategy, but decided to put it in the video. Yet again, use the Life Gem. I know some people like using the Apprentice Warden with Hybrid. It's nowhere near as strong, particularly with the Apprentice Warden nerf that came in recently. And then everything else is pretty self-explanatory. Yet again, you see the Royal Gem coming in, because the Royal Champion, when she's sitting behind the Hogs or the Hybrid, is expected to live for some amount of time. And the final Queen Charge attack strategy, Queen Charge Recall Armies. Now, you're going to notice I left this blank here. That's because it depends on what you're using on the back end of your Queen Charge Recall. If you're using Super Bowlers, bring the Life Gem. If you're bringing E-Dragons or Super Dragons, bring the Healing Tome. And if you're bringing Titans, bring the Rage Gem. So it depends on what army you're bringing. You might notice we've got the Jelly here. The the jelly on the queen just speeds up the queen charge recall a lot. The biggest weakness of this army used to be time, and you used to have to use your rage gem on your warden, irrespective of what army, to speed it up. No longer. The jelly speeds up that queen charge recall phase so much, and is 100% worth using. Next up, we have Super Archer Clone attacks. So the first one here is the Super Archer Clone with ground, so Root Riders or Super Barbs. And you're going to see we do bring the Rage Gem here. Now, you can bring the Healing Tome. The Healing Tome can definitely work, but I like the Rage Gem because it speeds up the attack. Keep in mind, the Super Archer Clone and the CC pull and CC kill that happens after it isn't particularly quick. So you want the Rage Gem to get through the base quickly so you don't time fail. And on top of that, you don't have any rage spells with the Root Riders, Super Barbs, Heroes, whatever you're using. So it's nice to get that extra little DPS, and then all the other equipment here is kind of standard. The other version of Super Archer Clone attacks is the Hydra or Air Spam, whatever you want to call it. And there are a few notable differences. And firstly, we're going to start off with the Healer Puppet. Now, here's my thinking on the Healer Puppet. If you're sending your queen inside the base and she's meant to live for any amount of time, not just being suied, then the Frozen Arrow is better in terms of the last attack. Think of the Super Archer Clone Root Riders. You don't have any freeze spells or anything with the army, so the Frozen Arrow being in the core of the base, slowing down the single Infernos is huge. Also, if you have the Healer Puppet and you pop it in the core of the base, you're likely going to pull Red Bombs and Seeking Air Mines there, and it's not going to get as much value. But inversely, with Super Archer Clone air attacks, your queen's going to be going around the edge of the base. She's going to be shooting a lot of trash buildings, and the Frozen Arrow does not do anything against trash buildings. But another thing on top of that is the Healer Puppet will do plenty because your queen is taking far less damage. There's less damage on the outside of the base, so 3 healers is enough to keep her up. Plus, you get the extra hit points as well, which is really nice. We are bringing the Owl. We're not bringing the Diggy this time. The reason you want the Owl is you don't want to pull the defensive CC towards your dragons, your Hydra, whatever it may be. Whereas when you saw the Lalo earlier, you don't really mind if you pull the defensive CC towards your Lalo, because your Lalo's not going to target it anyway, particularly if it's skeletons or a triple ice golem. Now let's move on to air spam. So no Super Archer Clone here, just straight up air spam. And we are bringing the Healing Tome, not the Rage Gem, because rage spells are so much better than healing spells. So you're better off bringing the rage spells in your spell comp and then bring the Healing Tome as kind of your heal spell. That way you get the best of both worlds. Yet again, you see the Healer Puppet, because our queen's going to be making a lap at the base and letting the air spam take out the core. And on to the final sort of air spam army, Edrags. Now, the reason I've separated this out from air spam is this Phoenix right here. Now, why do we bring the Phoenix instead of the Owl? Well, it's to do with chains for Edrags. Edrags need buildings to shoot to send their chains through the base. And if you have an Owl and your Warden doing damage on the buildings your E-Dragons are shooting and they take so long to shoot, if the E-Dragon doesn't get the chain off, they're completely wasted. So better to bring the Phoenix, a pet that's not going to shoot until the Warden goes down, and that means your E-Dragons can do far more damage. It's the same exact reason you should never bring the Rage Gem with E-Dragons, because what happens is the Warden, who doesn't get the benefit of the Rage, but will shoot faster with the Rage Gem, is more likely to take down the buildings your E-Dragons are shooting, and that is incredibly annoying. Keep in mind with E-Dragons, you're bringing 4 Rage spells with the army anyway. You don't need the Rage Gem. The Healing Tome is so much better. And then in terms of the King, because we don't have the Phoenix, gonna bring the Frosty. You can bring the Yak as well if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. The Frosty clears for me. Now we move on to Warden Charge attacks, and this is going to be the only attack strategy today where you see the Fireball. Now, it's really weird because I think the Fireball's sort of strong, but it's got to be used in specific armies. So using the Fireball here when you want to take down the core of the base, and we're going to pair it with the Jelly and the Rage Gem. The Rage Gem, obviously, because we want to speed up the power of the Warden Charge, and the Jelly so that we can speed up the Warden Charge. You've got the raged healers anyway, so you should be able to keep your Warden alive, and you can get to the position where you're fireballing far more quickly. Now let's move on to some other smash attacks. We've got Zap Titans, and we've yet again got the Jelly. If you don't want to bring the jelly, I understand that, because it is a bit risky trying to pull your Warden back after the jelly part of the attack, because he's going to get further in the base. So if you don't want to do that, I get it. But Titans, it's kind of worth doing because it is an incredibly slow attack. That's why you bring the Rage Gem with this attack rather than the Healing Tome, because you need to speed the Titans up. They've got plenty of hit points. They don't die super quickly, but they do not get through the base quickly at all. So the Jelly to speed up the Warden Walk, and the Rage Gem to speed up the smash part of the attack. Now we're moving on to Zap, or Blizz slash Sui Lalo. I decided to group them all up together because they're quite similar in terms of the hero equipment. And you're going to see the healer puppet here. So this is the only time when you're going to see the healer puppet used when the queen's entering the base. And it's what I kind of said earlier. When you're doing a Sui with your queen's not going to live that long. So the frozen arrow isn't going to get that much value. Whereas the healer puppet, both from the passive and active stats, is going to help a lot. The active in terms of the ability and getting the healers, which may allow your queen to live that little bit longer, but also the passive, you get an extra 1,000 hit points, which is huge on a Sui, because your queen doesn't have that many hit points with the frozen arrow, but with the healer puppet, far more, and I couldn't recommend it enough. Now, when Stars does Zap Lalo, he does bring the healing tome. You can, if you want to copy Stars, by all means go for it, but it is risky. Your loons do not have that many hit points, and Stars, I've watched the videos, he's going for a very specific sort of Lalo. He's always popping his Warden ability instantly, and if you're doing that, the healing tome is better, but 9 times out of 10, the life gem is better. I know Darkstar, for instance, is using the life gem I asked him about, and I kind of agree with him on that part, but if you want to do what Stars does, by all means. Then we move on to another Zap army, Zap Root Riders. And this kind of depends how you use the army, what you bring. For instance, Ghost did a video on the channel recently, Zap Sui Root Riders. And I believe he used the healer puppet instead of the frozen arrow because he's suing the queen. But how I do Zap Root Riders, I do the Zap and then I kind of spam it all on one spot. It still does triple. And therefore, because the queen's going inside the base, I like to use the frozen arrow. But completely up to you on that one. Then we move on to Super Bowler Smash. Now, this one was 50-50 Jelly versus Frosty. Because you've got so many rage spells with Super Bowler Smash, you can kind of use the Frosty with the Warden Walk if you want. You don't mind if your Warden deals with the trash buildings anyway. You can use one rage on him and that is completely fine. The army also isn't that slow, so you can afford to spend 45 seconds to a minute. I still like the Jelly though, because you can get a whole lot more defensive value and you can still bring plenty of wizards behind, but it is risky trying to pull it back. It's worth the risk for Zap Titan because you do need that speed up from the Warden Walk, but it's not as much worth the risk for Super Bowler Smash. So I was very 50-50 on this. I did decide to put the Jelly though, and the most surprising one here for you all might be this. So this is why I love Super Bowler Smash. You can justify all 3 of the Warden's equipment here. Now, I talked to a top Super Bowler Smash pusher, and he said he used the Life Gem, and I personally agree. Why is this? Well, one, the Apprentice Warden got nerfed, so he's not giving as much hit points, and he does cost 20 troop space if you do decide to bring him. 2, if you bring the Healing Tome, your Warden Walk's going to be substantially slower because you don't get the extra DPS. Keep in mind, one of the passive stats of the Life Gem is a pretty healthy extra amount of DPS. And then for the Rage Gem, whilst your Warden Walk will be super quick, your bowlers are not going to have that much hit points, and you don't get the healing through the Eternal Tome. So I think the Life Gem is the best of both. You get a quick enough Warden Walk, but you also get the extra hit points for your Super Bowlers so that they're not dying as quickly. Because for me, Super Bowlers is all about how long you can hold on to your Warden ability for. If you can save it to the core of the base, you're going to triple. If you have to use it kind of early, you're far less likely to 3-star, and that is why I prefer the Life Gem. Now we're coming to the final army of the video. I'm sorry if this video has gone too long. I have no idea how long it's been, but it is Root Rider spam, probably the most common army in the game. Now, you would have seen me the other day when I was doing Root Rider spam. I used the healer puppet on the queen. if you're able to multitask your queen on the flank, some of the time you're going to use a rage on her, some of the time you're going to freeze for her, and wall break her, then bring the healer puppet. But the main benefit of the healer puppet is 3-starring more quickly. That's why the pros do it, so they can 3-star in a much quicker time. I think the strongest way to use Root Rider spam is with the queen in the core of the base, so you can make use of the frozen arrow. But if you do need to do the attack quickly, or if you like using the healer puppet on the flank is completely fine. And now comes to my favorite part of the video. We've got a tally of all the equipment and pet combos throughout this. So Fox has used every attack on the Royal Champion. No surprise there. If you are at a lower town hall and you want to ask about what to use on the Royal Champion, jump in the comments right now. Phoenix is used on everything except Queen Charge Root Riders, because the King's using the Jelly. The Unicorn's used on the Queen in every attack strategy except Queen Charge Recall. Then you get a nice mix of Diggy, Jelly, Owl, and the Frosty. And that means the 3 pets you're not seeing here is the Lassie, the Yak, and the Poison Lizard. Now, you could use the Yak with the E-Dragons, but really, aside from, or with any air spam attack, but mainly E-Dragons. But other than that, no real point to upgrade those 3 other pets. They're far too weak at the moment. Now we've got the heroes. Yeah. No surprise there. Of these 3, I would never upgrade this or this. You can use the Earthquake Boots with air spam if you want, if you don't want to bring a wall breaker for your king to open up the base. But still, I think the Rage Vial is that much better. And if we have a look at the Queen here, you can see, not really surprising, the Healer Puppet is definitely useful, but not as strong as the Frozen Arrow, because, you know, it's better off if you can send your Queen inside the base. The Archer Puppet, I would only use it if you're new to Queen charging, otherwise don't use it. And the Giant Arrow is an interesting one. We've done a few videos on the channel recently with it, so it clearly is usable, but it's on a specific type of base. So I'd only use the Frozen Arrow if you're trying to activate both Invis towers on those double Invis ring bases that are very common at the moment, or I would use it if you're using the Giant Arrow to take down 2 sweepers on the base for your air spam attack. Other than that, there's no real point in using it, and it's worth noting, to take down the 2 sweepers, you only need the Giant Arrow level 9, and to activate both Invis towers, you can do it with a level 1 Giant Arrow. So honestly, there is no point upgrading it past level 9 in my opinion. The Warden equipment is my favorite in the game for this right here. And this is why the Warden should be your #1 priority for upgrading hero equipment, because if you want to use a wide range of attack strategies, you need to have all of these at a reasonable level. Obviously, the Fireball, it's an epic equipment, but it's right at the bottom, so you might think it sucks. But it's worth noting that those strategies with the Fireball are insanely strong. They are almost unstoppable. The Fireball is insane at the moment. So if you do upgrade the Fireball, you will get the value for it, but there's not as many attack strategies you can use. Obviously, the Eternal Tome is insane, but worth noting, the Eternal Tome upgrades aren't really that good. So maybe you don't want to prioritize it. And then this was kind of disappointing. I was hoping we'd get a more even spread. It's worth noting that all 4 of these are pretty reasonable hero equipment. For instance, the Seeking Shield here might have 0, but it is far better than any of the other ones that have 0 here. So if you don't have, say, the Hog Puppet upgraded, the Seeking Shield is a fine replacement. The Royal Gem is better, but the Seeking Shield is a fine replacement, honestly. So you can use all 4 of those with the Royal Champion. And that kind of sums up the whole video. Hopefully this kind of helps you understand which equipment's strong, which isn't as strong. If you have questions of what you should prioritize, let me know down below. But if you force me to say which hero you should put the most ores into, I'd say Warden #1. Then I'd put Queen and King tied for #2, because the Gauntlet is still probably the best hero equipment in the game. It's strong. Then Royal Champion 3, just because all of these are so strong and definitely usable. But yeah, let me know any questions you have down in the comments below. That's it from me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and maybe we'll see you soon.